Okay, we're in the middle of Parak Yud Tet, the second longest parak. We're going to be on this for a number of certainly a few more weeks, and we're up to discussing just in general the idea right now specifically of honoring Hakadosh Baruch Hu through our mitzvah performance and wanting to do so in the optimal way. To serve Hashem through the best of the physical world, the best gashmius that we can. We discussed previously that Hashem doesn't need this. This is actually for our benefit to grow in our connection towards Him. One of the analogies he gave, I don't remember if this was literally Mesilat Yesharim or in the footnote, but he discussed how when it comes to, let's say, kibbud avim, for example, it's commanded for a child to honor their parents because that gives the child a greater sense of appreciation towards the parents. So for us, in order to have these commandments to beautify the mitzvahs as best we can and to honor Hashem, it's for us to gain our appreciation and our love towards Hashem. I can't remember if this paragraph right here, if we did it last time or not, and it would be be a shame if we did the entire Sefer and accidentally left out a paragraph. So I'm going to read this again. It's a short paragraph, but it's a good one. So he says he's going to give an example from Cain and Hevel, right? It says that Hevel gave from his flock a korban to Hashem from the best of the flock, from the animal, the sheep that looked the fattiest, let's say. In Cain, he didn't give from the animals, he gave from the fruit, and he gave from the fruit that, let's say, you go to the supermarket, you look at it, see a few dark spots, and you put it down and try to pick up a different one. That's the fruit that Hevel used to serve. That Cain gave to serve Hashem. Hipiru Sham Zechrona Lebracha is explained in Bereshit Rabbah. Umet Allah Bahem. So what happened? What was the result? Vayisha Hashem El Hevel V'El Menchaso V'El Cain V'El Menchaso Lo Sha'a. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned to Hevel, to Hevel's offering, instead of Cain. Now, obviously, we know, unfortunately, the events that followed, the jealousy that Cain had, and the fact that Cain chose to kill Hevel over this. But just focusing on the korban itself and their offering, HaKadosh Baruch Hu desired that which a person was willing to give up the most, right? To give up your greatest flock for Hashem. So that shows that's something that Hashem appreciates, the Mesiras Nefesh and the honor that you're bestowing upon Him. The Omer, it says in Malachi, Parak Aleph, Pasuk Yud Dalet, V'arur nochel v'yesh be'edro zachar v'noder v'zovech mashchas l'Hashem kibel kadol ani. I believe this pasuk was quoted earlier in this parak, that a person a person should be cursed if you have, let's say, a really nice animal in your field and you choose to give Hashem from an animal that has a mum. What kavod is that? I think actually in this example, he's referring to I'm not sure. I was going to say he might be referring to Melech Basar V'Dam, but certainly it's if it is, it's still certainly a mashal towards serving Hashem. That obviously a person Melech Basar V'Dam will not appreciate an offering if you give him something that has a mum. How many things are there that we are warned and we're told by Chazal to make sure that our mitzvos are not disgraceful in the eyes of Hashem. Kvar Amru, it says in Gemara Megillah Lamed Bet Amud Aleph, Kol ha'ochei sefer Torah arum nikvar arum. The line sounds a lot more intense than it's actually explained. The line literally means that a person who grabs the parchment of their Torah, of arum, like meaning without covering your hand, without a covering, meaning normally now, so what do? Someone has to move the Torah, so you take a talus, right? And you make sure that the talus is the part that touches the parchment. You don't do it with your hand. And so the Gemara says if you were to grab it with your hands, like as you're grabbing it naked, he says he says, Nikbar you're going to be buried naked without clothes. Because you disgrace this mitzvah, you're going to be disgraced when you die. So that's the way it's simply explained, but it's actually, that's the way it's simply understood. But the actual explanation I saw here is a lot less scary. Not that a person should grab a Sefer Torah without a talis, but the actual explanation is that if you're learning Torah, you're doing something with Torah, and you grab the parchment while you're doing this, then you're losing out on that mitzvah, because you're doing the mitzvah in a way that kind of like is a disgrace to it. So it means the arum means that you're naked from that mitzvah. Like you're going to be buried, like you're not going to get any, doesn't mean you're literally going to die and be buried in that way. I'm sure it could be, there's some that explain it that way. That's what I saw here. It continues. The Seder Allah's Bikurim Yelanu Le'inaim Leros Mahu Hiduran Shel Mitzvos. He says, if you look at the way that the Bikurim were brought to Yerushalayim, says that's like one of the prime examples to learn and to recognize through that mitzvah of how to beautify mitzvos and serve Hashem properly. That when it comes to Bikurim, the Bikurim are the first of the Shivat Haminim that grow. And we had there was a mitzvah to bring them up and to bring them to Yerushalayim, to offer them as well with a korban, bring a korban and have those fruits brought to Yerushalayim. And there was a whole, on a sign of, there was a whole like parade and a thoroughfare where a person goes through the whole thoroughfare with these fruits, and people would stand up for you. And actually, I've heard a shiur from Rabbi Taubes about standing up for a chassan and kala when they walk down the aisle. And the source for standing up for a chassan and kala actually comes from Bikurim, one of the main sources from Bikurim. And it shows you the fact that the people in Yerushalayim used to stand up when these people came in with their fruits. It shows you that when someone is on their way to perform a mitzvah, you should stand up for them. So too, when a chassan and kala are walking down the aisle, so they're about to perform the mitzvah of getting married. Machlokas, whether it's literally a mitzvah itself or just a hechsher mitzvah to be able to have children. But either way, certainly it's a great thing. And as they're on the way to perform that mitzvah, getting married, we stand up for them because of from this source being one of the main sources. So he says, let's learn now let's analyze Bikurim and see the ways to beautify the mitzvos. Shekach as we learn Bikurim Parak Gimel Mishnah Gimel, Hashor Holech Lefnehem. They would have an ox go. This doesn't mean every single time you have to bring a korban. Here it's actually discussed that an ox is the most, or certainly one of the most expensive, not the most expensive animal. And people were able to chip in and together in order to offer this one ox, as opposed to offering each person, let's say, a korban that costs $100. You have 10 people join together to pay $1,000 for this korban. So Ashor Holech Lifnehem, you have the shore, the ox that walks ahead, is in front. The karna of mitzupos zahav, and its horns are ordained with silver and gold. The atara shel zayis birosho, and there's an olive wreath on its head, right? So olives, symbolically, the olives are one of the Shivat Haminim, and also the olive leaves themselves are very fresh and very beautiful, right? When it comes to the Arba Minim on Sukkot, so there's a lot of different mashalim to explain what each of them represent, and always in the most beautiful, or one of, not the most beautiful, is the hadassim. Not necessarily from an olive branch per se, but what I was thinking about. It says Odsham. Going further in the Mishnah Chet, Hashir Meviim Bikurehem Beklasos Shel Zahav Vaniyim Besale Nitzarim Behule. The rich people would bring baskets of silver and gold, and the poor people would have baskets that's made of peeled willow branches. That's what the Mishnah says, and it's brought here in my Sefer something interesting, that when you have wood. So if you were to take a stick, what's more beautiful? Just a stick itself, or if you peel away the bark and you have the wood? So of course, when you peel it away, when you have just the wood. right? If you look at our tables, they're made of real wood, so you don't have the bark, right? It's smoothened down, sanded over from behind, from below the bark. So he says that the aniyim who couldn't afford, unfortunately, a silver or gold basket for their bikurim, they still peeled away the bark, so that whatever they did, however they were able to perform the mitzvah in their basket made of branches, made of twigs, whatever it is. So at least it looked as good as possible. They cared about it as much as they could. Odsham, another example. Shalosh midos babikurim. Mishnah Yoda explains that there are like three, it's not stages here, components, word here, three components of bikurim. Bikurim, the actual fruit itself. Tosefes bikurim, the additional fruit that you want to bring on top of the bikurim, meaning even though you're only responsible for these specific fruits, you were able to add on fruits if you wanted, and that would show a greater beauty of this mitzvah. And the last is the itur bikurim. The last is the adornment, the dressing it up, making it the aesthetics as nice as possible, the baskets, right, and the gold and the silver and the added fruits, right? All that is to beautify it. So if you look at this just for 1 second, so realize that actual mitzvah itself, like the din, what are they doing, is one of the three components, right? So that just the bikurim itself is the actual din. So it says bikurim is something to beautify on top of that, and the beautification of the baskets and the whole procedure as they brought it to Yerushalayim is an additional layer. It says, "Harei lanu behedya kamer lanu lahosif agufa shel mitzvah hidei lahadra." Look to see how we're able to learn from this, to go above and beyond, to add to the actual body of the mitzvah itself. We should derive from this and learn this as just an example to how we should beautify all other mitzvahs in the Torah. Something interesting that he says that it's brought up here, just when it comes to analyzing this, is that most of the time when it comes to beautifying the mitzvahs, most of the time we think of the actual mitzvah itself. We think about getting a nice esrog. Let's say it's one of the biggest examples, right? Are you going to buy a $50 esrog, $100 esrog? How much will your esrog be, right? So we have the menorah on Hanukkah. You're going to get a nice silver menorah to light it, right? So those are for the mitzvahs themselves. But here, it's not just even the mitzvah itself, but it's the things that are external to the mitzvah, right? The basket that the fruit are brought in, right? So these are things even beyond that, even outside of that, we still are able to show Hashem greater kavod by beautifying the externalities, the things that are ancillary to the actual guf ha-mitzvah. There's the Amru, and Gemara says in Shabbos and Daf Yud, Rav Rami Puzmake Umetzale, that when it came to davening, so he used to wear here like his best shoes. Amar Hikon Nekrasel Kacha Yisrael. He says, I'm gonna stand before the God of Israel. I'm gonna stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Od Amar Abasim Zachron Racha Ala Pasuk Big Day Esav Benacham Dos. This is I don't think I've ever I think it's Gemara. Let me see where the source of this is. Not sure the source is, but I don't think I learned this till I saw some Mesilat Yesharim, where it says something wild. So we discussed that Esav had the big day of Chamudos, right? The special clothes, right? And when Yaakov had to dress up like Esav, he asked his mother or his mother said, like, let me get the big day Hamadod, and you'll put this on. He'll feel your skin from it. He'll think that or hold the smell that I think was the smell. He'll think you're Esav. So Amar Shim ben Gamliel, Anisha Mashti as Abba Chulei. About Esav Shahem Mishamis Aviv Lo Hayam Shamish Ella b'Big Day Malchus. He says as follows. I'm going to fill in some of the words that are not here. He basically said, Hashem ben Gamliel says, all my life I served my father, not referring to Hashem, like his literal father, but I didn't serve him even 1/100th as respectfully as Esav served his father Yitzchak. So that's not here. That's the rest of the source. Right? This is gracious Rabbah. This is a midrash. So that's what he says. I didn't serve him in 100th as great as Yitzchak. Where does he get this from? He said, I'd serve my father while wearing soiled clothing. But when I was setting out to travel, that's when I put on clean clothing. While Esav, on the other hand, when he served his father, he didn't serve him except while wearing royal garments. Big day machal. This is how Esav served his father Yitzchak. He learns, right? We learn from Esav how to do kibbud avim, and he sees how to serve him. V'hine imkin lebasar v'dam, and he says in Shem ben Gamliel, if that's the way to serve someone who's flesh and blood, certainly, if someone should honor their parents wearing nice clothing, then in front of Hashem, how much more so should we be careful to wear nice clothing? Yoshev lefanav kamosh yoshev lefnei melech gadol, and we should sit before him as if we're sitting before a great human king, meaning before as if we're greeting the President of the United States of America. Now he's going to be discussing when it comes to honoring Shabbos and Yom Tov, that the greater we honor them, the greater we show honor to Shabbos and Yom Tov, the greater we're showing honor to Hashem. So just, I'll say outside for a second. When you think about Pesach, so Pesach, we're supposed to ideally use the nicest silverware we have, the nicest plates. I will say for Shalom Bayis, assuming you're not the one in charge of setting the table and cleaning the dishes and all that, not that you shouldn't do that per se, but obviously our wives or whoever is the one doing the Seder and things, they have enough stress. So if they want to, and this is my situation, I think. I mean, I know it was this past year, I'm saying in general, it might be, but if they want to use like nice plastic and buy a nice set of plastic to throw out, disposable, so I would not make a macha about that. But ideally, a person should use certainly nice kit. It was very nice plastic, I'll say, but a person should use the nicest that they could use, nicest silverware. Person should buy the nicest box of matzah that they can, right? And we should have a Kiddush cup, right? There's certain things when it comes to Shabbos and Yom Tov, you're going to see more things about Shabbos soon. But just think about Pesach should be fresh in our minds right now. So just think about the way, right? A nice Seder plate is another example, right? It's not just the Seder plate that your kid comes back from daycare with, a little like very cute. But that's not the most the nicest thing, let's say, for the Seder, but silver Seder plate, if one could afford it, whatever it may be. These are all examples of making the mitzvahs as beautiful as they could be for Hashem. And he says, the Kevan, Shekvar his ames lanu shekvodo mitzvah, and he says, since we've ascertained, since we know that enhancing a mitzvah, its honor as a mitzvah, hine midei akavod rabim him. So the fact that we realize we're supposed to beautify mitzvahs and what that does for Hashem, he says that makes us, for when it comes to Shabbos, like the amount of examples, the amount of ways to beautify it there are a lot of things upon us. And he says, Acha klalhu, sorry. Sorry. Let's see where we go. Acha klalhu, shakol ma'isa shabo nira chashivos l'Shabbos tzrichim anu lasos. As much as we're able to honor Shabbos, that's what we should do. However, we're able to in each and every area. And he says, Alkain, hayu chachamim harishonim oskim ba'achanos l'Shabbos. We discussed this and it's been mentioned briefly in the past. Now he's going to go more in depth. That the Tanam, the Amoraim they themselves would be involved the preparation of Shabbos that a person, we discussed, I believe previously, the example was like if they wouldn't just sit and learn. We were discussing, I believe, Talmud Torah, a person wouldn't just sit and learn. They would stop to be able to do something for Shabbos. So here he's discussing it for the sake of beautifying the mitzvah. He says, each person according to their way, as best as they can. Rabbi Abahu haya hava yisev atachtaka deshina umenashev nura. That he would sit on a stool of ivory. That was a nice chashuv stool, and he would make sure to fan the fire in order to be able to cook for Shabbos. I don't know if he was the one cooking or not, but he would get the fire going, and he would sit dafka on a nice stool in order to do that. Rav Safra Macharech Resha. Rav Safra would singe the head of the animal that was being prepared to be eaten for Shabbos. Rava Malach Shibuta. Rava would salt this type of the Shibuta fish, this fish that they were going to eat. Rav Huna Madlik Shaga. Rav Huna would light the candles, be the equivalent of whoever goes around to turn on the lights that are needed for Shabbos. Rav Papa Gadol Silta. Rav Papa would twist the wicks of the Shabbos candles. Right? We think we're a little spoiled. When I read this example earlier, we're a little spoiled the fact that we have nice, beautiful Shabbos wicks and we don't have to do anything. There's something nice about being able to actually do it, like the more involvement you have in that. But we're a little spoiled, more than a little. Rav Chizda Parin Silka. He would mince the beets. He would make the beets. Rabba Virav Yosef Mitzalche Tzibe. He would split the wood. Rav Nachman Machatef Ayal Machatef Inafik. Rav Nachman would lift up bundles of Shabbos goods on his shoulder and bring them in, and lift up bundles on his shoulder and take them out to make room for the Shabbos goods. We're actually going to be discussing this one now much more in depth. But basically, it would be like take off the old tablecloth and put it away and put on the new Shabbos tablecloth. Amar Ilu, what's the reason for this? And here's one of the key parts. Amar Ilu Mekalden Li Rabbi Ami Rabbi Asi Mila Mechatifna Kamayu. If Rav Ami or Rav Asi were to come visit me, wouldn't I take out the old bundles and bring in some new ones? Meaning, wouldn't I set a nice table for them? If I'm going to set for them, then certainly for Hashem, for the honor of Shabbos, for Hashem, I should do this. Now, we're going to end in just a few minutes, but I'll read a beautiful line. The Tire, so he says, you should see Hekeshel shel Rav Nachman sheish lanu mimenu makom limud. Look at the Hekesh. Look what Rav Nachman learned out. Look how he modeled for us how to behave, how to think, even more so. He thought about, what would I do for a person who I want to show honor to? If these great rabbis would come to my house, what would I do? And the kazeh atmo haya oseh b'Shabbos. And with that logic, that's how you prepare for Shabbos. Davars and Ne'amaran, through this way, this is what the Gemara in Brachos and Yud Zayin Amrach says, Lo mehi adam arum b'yira. A person is naked with yira. What does this mean? So it's explained that when it comes to Yiras Shamayim, a person doesn't just have tons of Yiras Shamayim. You have to work on it. You have to grow. And you have to be as creative as possible to grow in your Yiras Shamayim. So what he did by saying, how do I want to show honor to Hashem? And showing honor, as we'll see, is tied towards Yira. How do I do this? Oh, let me think about what I want to do for someone else if they were to visit me, and let me do that for Hashem, even more so. So it says, when it comes to growing Yiras Shamayim, you have to devise innovations to perform mitzvos and to think in certain ways to what would satisfy Hashem, what would be the best way to serve Hashem. And with that, that's how a person should should prepare for Shabbos, and their mitzvahs in general. And we're going to continue Bez Hashem next week with more ideas, more lessons from this, and more lessons related to Shabbos specifically.